Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Shreya. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 26th of August. Afghan situation critical, evacuation top priority, says India's foreign minister at all-party meet. Peaceful Afghanistan vital for Pakistan regional stability, PM Imran Khan tells Russian President. And Nepal's poll body grants recognition to CPN Unified Socialist LSP-N. And now for all the details. India's Foreign Minister SJaishankar at an all-party meeting convened by the centre to discuss the prevailing situation in Afghanistan on Thursday said, Afghan crisis was extremely critical and New Delhi's top priority was to evacuate as many as possible. India has been evacuating its nationals in number of Afghans from the country. So far, India has evacuated 565 people, of which 112 are Afghan nationals.
Indian government on Thursday called for an all-party meeting to discuss the situation in Afghanistan after the Taliban seized power in the war-ravaged country. Foreign Minister SJaishankar briefed the leaders on India's evacuation mission, Operation Devi Shakti from Afghanistan, and the latest situation there. Jaishankar said the crisis in Afghanistan was extremely critical and India's top priority was to evacuate as many as possible. India has been evacuating its nationals and number of Afghans from the country. India has evacuated 565 people, of which 175 are embassy personnel, 263 are other Indian nationals, 112 are Afghan nationals, including Hindus and Sikhs. 15 are nationals of other countries.
We have, under Operation Devi Shakti, done 6 flights. The latest flights was this morning, which took off at 3 o'clock. We have brought back most of the Indians, but not all of them. There are still a few out there. Some of them could not make it for the flight yesterday. But definitely we will try and bring out everybody. We have also brought out some Afghan citizens who wanted to come to India at this point of time.
India on August 17 had also announced that it will issue an emergency e-visa to Afghan nationals who want to come to the country in view of the prevailing situation in Afghanistan.
In news from Pakistan, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, in a telephonic conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin, said that a peaceful, secure and stable Afghanistan was vitally important for Pakistan and regional stability. He said he is in favor of an inclusive government in the war-torn country. This comes as Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi is currently on a 4-nation tour to discuss the evolving situation in Afghanistan following Taliban's takeover.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan on Wednesday told Russian President Vladimir Putin that a peaceful, secure and stable Afghanistan was vitally important for Pakistan and the regional stability. Khan received a phone call from Putin and the two leaders exchanged views on bilateral ties and the evolving situation following Taliban's takeover in Afghanistan. His office said in a series of tweets. Khan said besides ensuring safety, security and protection of rights of Afghans, an inclusive political settlement was the best way forward in resolving the crisis. This comes as Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi is currently on a regional tour to Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan and Iran, the countries that share borders with Afghanistan, to share Pakistan's perspective on the latest developments. Meanwhile, unabashedly admitting Pakistan military's close ties with Taliban and its anti-India agenda, Neelam Irshad Sheikh, spokesperson of Pakistan PM Khan's ruling party during a TV news debate this week, said the Taliban have announced that they will join hands with Pakistan in Kashmir. Recently, a homecoming rally of terrorists who fought along with the Taliban was also organized in the illegally occupied region of Pakistan-administered Kashmir by Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terror groups whose operations primarily focus on India. Pakistan is also accused by the US and Afghan officials that its main military-run intelligence service supports the Taliban and several terror groups, which enjoy safe sanctuaries in the country.
The United States allies urged people to move away from Kabul airport on Thursday due to the threat of a terror attack by Islamic State militants. While the Western troops hurry to evacuate people, scores of families displaced by recent fighting in Afghanistan are in desperate need of help as a humanitarian crisis unfurls in the country. Traders have also demanded that shuttered banks should be opened as soon as possible.
Traders in the Afghan capital Kabul have demanded that shuttered banks should be opened as soon as possible. People were seen queuing outside banks and ATMs on Wednesday, a day after Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid said that all banks will open soon. Since the Taliban seized control of the country, prices of staples like flour, oil and rice have risen by as much as 10 to 20%. On Thursday, scores of families displaced by recent fighting in Afghanistan were squatting in the open in Kabul and in desperate need of help as a humanitarian crisis unfurls in the country. The UN says more than 18 million people, over half of Afghanistan's population, require aid. Meanwhile, military aircraft continued taking off and landing at Kabul airport on Thursday as Western troops hurried to evacuate people amid the threat of a terror attack by the Islamic State militants. The US and allies also urged the people to move away from airport on Thursday due to the threat of the terror attack. In the 11 days since the Taliban swept into Kabul on August 15, the United States and its allies had brought out more than 88,000 people. The Taliban have said foreign troops must leave by the August 31st deadline. Meanwhile, Pentagon spokesman John Kirby, during a briefing on Wednesday, said the US military will continue evacuating people from Kabul airport until an August 31st deadline if needed, but is not expected to continue in that role after the pullout deadline. But on the last couple of days, it will prioritize the removal of US troops and military equipment. There are about 5,400 troops at the airport, a number that President Joe Biden says is set to go down to zero by the end of the month, depending on cooperation from the Taliban.
In news from Nepal, Nepal's Election Commission on Wednesday formally registered and certified the breakaway factions of the CPN-UML party and the Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal. The two parties have been recognized as CPN Unified Socialist, led by Madhav Kumar Nepal, and the Loktantrik Samajwadi Party Nepal, led by Behenta Thakur.
Nepal's Election Commission on Wednesday registered and certified the breakaway factions of the CPN-UML party and the Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal separately. The two parties have been recognized as CPN Unified Socialist, led by Madhav Kumar Nepal, and the Loktantrik Samajwadi Party Nepal, led by Behenta Thakur. Earlier in the day, 55 Central Committee members and 30 lawmakers of the CPN-UML had verified their signatures to split their party and register the CPN Unified Socialist under Madhav Kumar Nepal. Similarly, 17 executive committee members and 14 lawmakers of the Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal signed to form Democratic Socialist Party or the Loktantrik Samajwadi Party Nepal, led by Behenta Thakur. This came after CPN-UML chair KP Sharma Oli had earlier this month expelled Madhav Kumar Nepal and 13 other lawmakers for defying party whip on May 10, when he, as the Prime Minister, sought a vote of confidence in the House of Representatives. The Behenta Thakur-led faction of the LSP-N had, however, aligned with Oli at that time, leading to an intra-party rift. The formation of the new parties will now help newly elected Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba the most, as the Madhav Kumar Nepal faction has already made decision to join the coalition government.
In news from Bangladesh, hundreds of garment workers in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka have been working adhering to COVID-19 protocols as the government allowed all export-oriented factories to reoperate earlier this month. Bangladesh is home to around 4,000 garment factories employing 4.1 million workers. Scores of garment workers in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka have been working with COVID-19 preventive measures as the government allowed all export-oriented factories to reoperate from earlier this month. The body temperature of workers is checked at various entrances of the factories and they are frequently guided to wear face masks, wash hands and maintain social distancing along with compliance of other health guidelines. The employees of a factory named the Civil Engineers Limited in Dhaka have separated its various sections. Plastic curtains have been installed between sewing desks to ensure social distancing between on-site workers and employees to curb the virus spread. Bangladesh's garment industry is the second largest in the world behind China's and has become the foundation of the economy for the country. The South Asian nation came out of a weeks-long strict lockdown imposed on August 11, but the government has imposed certain protocols to be followed by officers and transporters. In the last 24 hours, Bangladesh reported 4,966 new COVID-19 cases and with 114 deaths, taking the infections tally to 1.47 million as of Wednesday. Moving on to news from Sri Lanka. A senior Sri Lankan police official has said the deadly 2019 Easter Sunday bombings were well planned before being carried out. Delivering a statement on the progress of the investigations into the incident, Inspector General of Police C.D. Vikramaratne said the bomb attacks were not a single crime planned by Sehran Hashim, the mastermind behind the attacks. He stated that several events led up to the carnage, including a time bomb attack on a house, murder of 2 constables, vandalism of Buddhist statues and recovery of explosives. The blast, claimed by militant group Islamic State, targeted 3 churches and 3 luxury hotels and killed at least 270 people on April 21, 2019. So far, over 300 suspects have been detained or remanded during the year-long investigations, and more than 23,000 charges have been filed under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Civic body in India's Ahmedabad city in Gujarat, the home state of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is turning a massive dumping ground into a mega ecological forest by planting millions of trees. The site was a dumping zone about 4 decades ago. Trees will be planted following the Japanese Miyawaki technique.
India's western Ahmedabad city in Gujarat, the home state of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is turning a massive dumping ground into a mega ecological forest by planting 1.5 million trees. The dumping ground in the heart of the city originated about 3 decades ago, which now looks like a source of embarrassment to an otherwise prospering city. Therefore, the municipal corporation decided to give it a new look by turning it into an ecological park, planting trees with the Japanese Miyawaki technique that involves planting 2 to 4 trees per square meters. The plantation drive is expected to be completed by the end of the year.
पूरे शहर के मध्य में एक कूड़े का ढक था। एक कूड़े का ढक हटाना हमारी सबकी जिम्मेदारी थी। 30 साल से ये ढक था, उसको निपटारा करने के लिए एक काम शुरू किया है। जिस तरह से वो कचरे का ढक चला जाएगा और आजू बाजू विस्तार को पूरा शहर में ग्रीन कवर करने का जो लक्ष्य रखा है 15 लाख वृक्ष रोपने का, बनाने का अहमदाबाद में, उसका हम उसके भागरूप वहाँ पे जो जगह खाली हुई वहाँ वृक्षारोपण कर रहे हैं।
Meanwhile, a non-governmental organization headed by industrialist Vijay Dobaria is planting tree saplings in Saurashtra region of the state to spread the importance of trees and a greener environment for the planet. Dobaria's Sadbhavna Vruddhashram has planted over 700,000 tree saplings along highways and villages in a 1,000-kilometer area in Saurashtra since 2014. India is aiming to increase its forest area and green cover to 1/3 of its total land area by 2030, up from about 1/4, as part of its commitment to reduce carbon emissions and meet pledges made under the Paris Climate Accord.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now, viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.